Hi there. So the truth is, the rowing stroke isn't actually that complicated, okay? All you do is you push with your legs, you swing your body, you pull in your arms, you release your arms, you rock forwards with your body, and then you bend your knees to come into the front of the machine again, all right? That's it, done, video over, goodbye. No. But when you start to investigate a little bit more, when you think about sequencing, flow, when you talk about power or comfort or injury prevention on the rowing machine, that's when looking at technique a bit more can just help a little bit, all right? So there's loads to say about technique, and you can stop this video at any point when you're like, I've got it now, all right? But I will go a little bit deeper and deeper as we go through this. So the first thing to talk about is sequencing and flow, because you'll just then, as I kind of went through the stroke, I broke it down into 6 elements, okay? So legs, body, arms, body, legs. But they're not 6 individual items when you're in the stroke, okay? It should be like Tai Chi almost. Everything should flow through itself. So you push, you swing, you pull, but everything is flowing through. There's not a point in the stroke when I am stopped. I'm always moving from legs, which feed into the body, which feed into the arms. And then the arms come away and they trigger the forwards lean, and then the knees bend to bring me forwards at the front. So I'm never stopped. So if you look in the mirror and find you're kind of the person that's rowing like this, in a very robotic, arms away, rock, knees, or worse, that you finish at the end and hold it here before then coming forwards, then try to avoid it. Stopping at the back of the stroke is not a bad thing. I'll quickly just say this. I'll say this as quick as I can, okay? So you can come to the back of the stroke and stop, but you let your arms come away when you're in this backwards lean, okay? And then they then help you with the forwards momentum. If you're doing low intensity rowing, this is really good, especially if you're on the water rower. But you don't finish here and then race to the front of the machine. It's all about things flowing into each other. Even when you're pausing at the back, you're not actually pausing at the back, okay? So that's the sequencing side of things. Everything kind of flows into each other quite nicely. Now we can start talking about body positions. And this is if you are going to stop this video after this next section, okay? Because this is quite important. Especially when it comes to posture. I'm going to start right in the middle with posture, or right at the bottom with posture, because one of the most common things that you'll see, and this is for anyone watching technique stuff, this is probably the most vital part. I should put this at the front, but I didn't. This is the most vital part. Most people new to rowing will sit in a rowing machine like this, okay? So everything is slumped underneath, the tailbone is tucked underneath me, my hips are kind of pointing that way, my knees are already, like my heels are off the foot plate, my knees are right up in the air, I can feel all this tension down here into my hip flexors even as I'm doing this, and I can feel all this tension in my lower back because everything's slumped backwards. This is not the posture for rowing, okay? If you, again, look in the mirror and you see yourself rowing like this, kind of constantly leaning backwards, you don't really feel like you've got any kind of forwards addressing to the front of the machine, please change your posture from this kind of tucked, rolled backwards thing into a forwards tilt. And you see the difference here. This is really important. The difference here between being tucked under, so you've got nice, kind of comfortable, I'm sitting here on the meat of my backside, and then I kind of tilt up, and then I'm now up on my sit bones. I feel powerful through my lower back. My hips are now pointing more kind of in that angle, and I'm ready to address the front of the machine powerfully with a forwards tilt. And that's so important. The difference between being tucked under and leaning backwards, everything rolled down here, and then being tilted to the front. You can see everything that happens with my legs. When I'm like my heels are down on the foot plates, everything changes when I get into this powerful posture to the front of the machine. So posture is important, all right? I talk about it all the time, and so I'm not going to keep on talking to you here because I could go on and on and on, and nobody wants that. So the next thing, what I'll do is I'll take it through the various points as you go through the stroke, okay? So what you want your body to be like at the front, and then as you drive, and then at the back, and then as you recover, and hopefully that will cover pretty much everything you need to know, and then you can go and have some lunch or something, all right? Or maybe you're watching this over lunch, okay? So don't spill your food over the keyboard. That would be a bad idea. Right, so the front of the machine, the beginning of the stroke is called the catch, okay? Because this is, if we were on the water, who rows on the water? That's the point where the blade catches the water and you're, I think, I don't know anything about on the water rowing. And you then power into the stroke. So you come into the front of the machine and you're ready to take your stroke, okay? Now, here's the kind of the prime way that's described for how you want your body to be set up. You want your arms straight out in front of you, nice and relaxed, okay? Someone should be able to come up to you and wobble your arms, okay? Nice and loose and relaxed, at a neutral height. So you're not up in the air, you're not dumped down on the ground, okay? So up in the air is obviously gonna be uncomfortable. Down on the ground is gonna ruin that posture and you're not gonna be able to get the power out. So you're at the front, arms nice and straight, relaxed. You can see that they're straight. I'm not coming in bent, they're nice and straight. And then your hands, okay? Your fingers are hooks over the handle, right? You're not grabbing it, you're not chucking it for dear life. You want your fingers hooked over the handle. What that does is it helps with the power going through your arms into your hands, into the handle, but also gives you just like 1 or 2 extra centimeters of length as opposed to kind of gripping it really tight, and it'll help with preventing blisters and all that kind of stuff as well, all right? So you're in this position. Now, thumbs up, underneath the handle is what I prefer. I know loads of rowers like to row with their thumbs on top. I'm not going to get into that bun fight. I prefer under because I feel I get a straight line of power right into my hand, whereas when you go on top, I tend to get tendonitis, or would that be golfer's elbow in the outside if I have my thumbs on top? I really don't like it. So thumbs underneath, nice relaxed grip, fingers hooked over the handle. And this is you in the position with your arms and your hands. We've already talked posture, so you have to make sure you're in that nice prime posture with a forwards tilt. If you're on a clock face as you're watching me right now, that means you can be a 1 o'clock lean. So you're not in at 3 o'clock, you're just got a nice kind of lean tilt forwards, okay? So not too far. And then your shins, you want to be sliding far enough forwards on the seat so that your shins are pointing in a vertical position. If you go too far, I'll try and do it here, and your shins go past that vertical position, you're just gonna lose power because your backside springs out from underneath you. So vertical is perfect, okay? That's how you're gonna be able to plant those heels down and get the power into the machine. Obviously, you want to get to at least vertical, because if you are only coming to here, then what happens is you're losing a potential loads amount of power that you could be putting into the stroke. So try to get to a point when your shins are in a vertical position. I've made a couple of videos about how to work on this. I'll make another one just to update it after I've made this main technique video, okay? So it'll pop up at one point. So that's the shins. So shins in the vertical position, your arms are straight, your fingers are hooked over the handle, and you have a good posture. You also want your chin to be in a nice neutral position, so you're not looking down, and you're also not looking up at the sky, ignoring everybody. So just looking straight ahead at the monitor. That's why I have my monitor up relatively high, it's kind of pointing up. And you keep it in a good neutral chin position as you come forwards. So that's you pretty much there in the catch position. Now, what about heels? Okay, so this is a big discussion about whether your heels are allowed to come up at the front of the stroke or not. Now, I'm going to make a whole video about heels because again, I don't want to waste your time here when it comes to this stuff. If your heels come up just a small amount as you come to the front, that's perfectly fine. If you find that your heels are like this off the foot plate, you're really high up, that's not as good. Chances are it's flexibility, or it could be that your feet are set way too high up on the foot plates and that's causing it, or it could be that you're over compressing into the front, all right? So that's usually the cause of the heels up. If they come up just a tiny bit, that's perfectly fine, as long as when you start the drive, you plant your heels in there, okay? Obviously, if you could keep your heels down the entire time, that'd be amazing, but some people just literally can't. As they come in the forwards, there's a slight heel rise, all right? So we get into the drive phase, because that was ages to be talking about, about the catch. So as you get into the drive, like I say, make sure your heels connect into the foot plates, right? And heels connect at the same time you feel the handle connect to your machine. Now, whether it's a Concept 2 or a water rower or a magnetic machine, it doesn't really matter. You will feel a point when your handle will connect to whatever the power generation of your machine is. And what you want to do is get your heels down at the same time that connection happens, so that as you push with your legs, remember that's what you do, you push with your legs, you are pushing with those feet at exactly the same time that the handle connects to the machine. And what should happen if you maintain the position that you started the catch in, okay, so forwards tilt, arms straight, as you push your legs into the machine, the power from your feet comes up through your body, through those straight arms, which are staying straight, thank you very much, and then into your hands and into the handle, because you've connected to the machine. So you're pushing all that power into the machine just from your legs. So you come into the catch and you push with the legs, it's all flooding through your arms, into the handle and into the machine. No power at this point is coming from you pulling with your hands or from you swinging with your back. You're maintaining that forwards tilt, you're keeping your arms straight, you're pushing with your legs. helps to think about pushing the machine away from you, all right? So rather than thinking about pushing yourself backwards, think about pushing the machine away from you. And that will kind of, it's weird, but it will, trust me, it will help you kind of think about that forwards tilt and your arms straight if you're thinking about pushing the machine away from you rather than pushing yourself backwards. Because obviously if you push yourself backwards, you're wanting to get there as quick as possible, right? So forwards tilt, arms straight, push with the legs, and that power, it courses through your body because you brace your core as you do so. I didn't say that part. You brace your core as you push, not like as though you get punched in the stomach, but just kind of brace a little bit as though you're kind of just making sure the power comes through. Yeah, man. So push, the power is flooding through, and then when your legs get to round about kind of just past halfway down, so you're kind of towards the back end of the machine-ish, okay? So you're, maybe the handle's past your feet, let's say that at that point. So you're kind of here, round about here-ish. You then swing over your back. So what's just happened is you've put in loads and loads of power from your legs. As the power starts to wane from your legs, because you're getting towards the back end of them, you then top up the available power by swinging over your back. Okay, so all you're doing is rocking over your hips from that forwards tilt into a backwards tilt. My arms are still straight at this point, okay? So I go legs, swing. Okay, so this is the first kind of 2/3 of the stroke. So power, swing. But my arms are still straight at this point. So get all that power in from the legs, then I add in power from my back, and then you pull in with your arms. So legs, back, arms. And you pull in with your arms. So your backswing is just rocking over your hips. If you think of the seat, this is the point of posture. The seat is like a fulcrum point. So you're leaning forwards and all you do is you rock over your hips. You're not doing any kind of weird kind of crunchy thing or anything. You just tilt over your hips. You're just pivoting backwards and forwards. So that's all you're doing with your back. And that does add in so much power. I can row at like 2 minutes pace just by swinging over my back, okay? Because it's all this meat adds so much mass into the stroke. So legs, back. And then remember what I said about flow and overlap. So the fact is that your legs are pushing as you then add in your back. And then as your back is going through its swing, that's when you start the arm pull, okay? So it's an overlap of all three elements is the best way to do this. So you come in and then you pull in with your arms finally. So legs, back, pull in with your arms finally. And now there's a little bit of discussion about what you do with your elbows. The main thing that everyone will agree on is that you don't have your elbows down, okay? So if you have your elbows down and hand up in the air, that's not a very powerful finish. I prefer pulling in and having a slight outwards. In fact, hang on, quickly. Oh, sorry. This is taking a while, isn't it? So a slight outwards move of my elbows, okay? So my elbows still come through my sides, but I can have a very slight outwards flare. You will see lots of people who say, come out like chicken wings, that's the way to finish. I feel it puts everything up into your delts, and that's nowhere near as powerful as your lats, which you use if you finish with your elbows just very slightly outwards and your elbows to your side. So out, chicken wings is all about up here. Slight outwards is all about your lats, which are much bigger and more powerful and really fitter to be able to do all of the rowing strokes you want to do. So elbows come through the sides. You want to keep your wrists flat as you come to the back, okay? So you finish, wrists nice and flat, rather than, like I say, bunny hands. You certainly don't want to be turning it down into your stomach. I do see that a lot. You see people rowing and they're like a little scoop at the finish. There's zero power in that finish. There's more, you're going to get more power finishing up in your throat than you are finishing down that turn. But ideally, you want to finish elbows slightly out with wrists flat, okay? And then height-wise, you want, ideally, now again, people change, don't worry about it. People change and they think the better, they can do what they want. Height-wise, you really want the handle to hit pretty much your sternum, okay? Not hit, because I don't want you to hurt yourself. But it should come into sternum height, which is around about your bra strap or your just underneath your heart rate monitor if you're wearing a heart rate monitor, because you don't want to break it. Yeah, and that's kind of the height, and that will help you to not overlean. So if you can come in, finish at sternum height, you kind of automatically have this 11 o'clock lean at the back of the stroke. Whereas if you're finishing up in your neck, it's really easy to want to go into this really like elongated over lean at the back, which you'll get a little bit more length out of the stroke, but it's going to slow down your stroke rate. It's going to put a lot more tension on your stomach muscles that you really don't need to be. So from an efficient injury prevention point of view, if you're just learning how to do your how to row and you want to just do a little bit of rowing technique, then I advise just going into this sternum height 11 o'clock lean first, and then you can tweak and do whatever you want. Just watch out for injury if you're all the way back there, right? So come into a finish, nice and powerful. You've still got good posture at the back of the stroke, okay? So it's important that you don't collapse here. Your legs are down. That's the last thing. So the legs have finished, everything's come in. So push with the legs, your legs are down. You're not locking out your knees, you're not bending them backwards by locking them all the way down. They're just comfortably down. And it helps at this point to point your toes to the front of the machine. Because what that will do is it'll keep your feet connected to the foot plates rather than you kind of yanking up against them to try and stop you at the back of the machine. Because if you do the sequencing right, you should be able to push, swing, finish without needing to pull and stop yourself on the foot straps. In fact, I will show you that here. This was meant to be a short video. It was never going to be a short video. So push, rock, pull, and I'm into the next stroke. So if you're convinced you have to use your foot straps in order to pull you forwards, I'm hoping showing you this right now is proof enough that you don't need to. There's no camera trickery going on here. It's just about sequencing. All of my body momentum is done by the time I get to the back of the stroke. So I don't need to catch myself by flicking my feet up against the straps, and I certainly don't need to pull myself forwards by using the straps because of that sequencing. Because I come to the back of the stroke, I release my arms, which then triggers the forwards lean, and then bending the knees just takes me to the front. So I don't need to use those foot straps. In fact, I'll keep them at the straps for the duration of this video. So, where were we? Drive, swing, finish. Toes are pointed to the front of the machine to keep my feet connected to the foot plates. Got relatively good posture, I think. We have slumped there, sorry. And then so you come into the finish, and this is what, right at the very beginning of the video when I said about don't just stop here at the back. Because you can use the kind of springiness of your muscles and your tendons to help you return for the next stroke. Because as you come into a finish, that tension here wants to release, okay? And it's kind of like a little spring that takes your arms forwards. So even if you do want to do some kind of a pause at the back, you can still use that arm right here. There's like a release. You can use that arm release to help. So nice and slow, and then rock forwards into the front if you're wanting to do this really slowly. But something is always in motion. But this is me down at like 12 strokes a minute. So if I go up to 20 strokes a minute, then all I'm doing is coming in, the handle releases instantly, it bounces away from my body, it then triggers that forwards tilt, and then by the time my arms are forwards and the forward tilt happens, my knees haven't come up. They might soften a little bit, especially in my case. They might soften a bit from being all the way down, but they've not come up, okay? So I just get into the finish, hands come over the knees, trigger the forwards lean, or forwards tilt, sorry, and then I bend the knees to come into the front. I am not finishing and then bending knees and having to throw the handle up and over my knees in order to get to the front, which usually, hang on, come on, John, quicker. The cause of that is pulling on the foot straps. So someone gets to the back of the stroke, they pull on the foot straps, and that instantly pops the knees up in the air, and now they're in this poor posture. The handle's having to get thrown over, and they're suddenly coming into the front of the machine, leaning backwards, going, hang on, that man told me about posture. How am I supposed to get into this position? Ugh. And it's because you're tugging on the foot straps, okay? That pops the knees up. So I'll take my feet back out again. Come in, hands come away instantly, tilt forwards, bend knees, come to the front. So I'll go slightly higher rate just to show I'm not faking it when it comes to the foot straps thing and the knees over, or the handle over the knees. But you can see, handle comes over knees, forwards tilt, knees bend. And the handle's always in motion. Apart from that instant it stops against my chest, It's always in motion. It's like the speed you pull it in at is the speed you release it at, okay? So I quite often make a little lightsaber noise here. So you go, vroom, vroom. There we go. That's my Star Wars edition. Vroom, vroom. Okay, so the handle just comes in and goes straight back out again. And the momentum of your arms coming away is what causes your upper body to give it that momentum to kind of tilt forwards to then come to your knees. And then all you do is you bend your knees and then you come to the front of the machine again. And that's you ready for the next stroke. So handle height through the stroke. Let's just touch on that before we're done. Because loads of folks, even the non-knee benders, will row and then scrape the handle down, cross their legs, bring it up at the front, scrape, and then bring it up at the front. Which, if you're an on-the-water rower, there is some value to, because obviously you're working on getting the oar in and out of the blade in and out of the water. But on a rowing machine, you don't need to do that. And what it does is it can ruin your posture. Because what happens is as you come in, when you start scraping, everything comes down, you're past that 1 o'clock forwards tilt, you're leaning forwards into the front of the machine, everything's slumped. But then at this point here, as you lift the handle, so many people then tilt the back at the same time as they lift the handle, therefore completely losing the power they're going to get from their back swinging from that forwards tilt to a backwards tilt, all right? So if you come in, normal stroke, boom, I've got my back swing, that adds in power. I can see it on the force curve, I'm adding power. But if I come down to the front, I raise, now all I'm getting is legs and arms because I've lost the backswing, and this is purely because I'm coming down too low at the front. On the water rowers know how to row without that happening, but if you are doing this from the start and you're not really thinking about that force tilt and holding it, maybe you're going to lose that. Now, this does come quite a lot, like genuinely, it's a great fix, the scrape of the handle down the legs. For people who do pop the knees up too early on the recovery, it's a great idea for them to think about the handle coming down low because it forces them to keep their knees down. So they're rowing and then they pop the knees up, they go, oh, I've got it wrong, right, next stroke. And they go, handle down, oh good, I've kept my knees down. But the moment you get past this thing of the knees popping up too early, you should start thinking about the handle just coming in and out at a straight line, okay? So I just row, and what I aim for is for the handle, or the chain, sorry, to pass pretty much around the area of this front bolt on the Concept 2, okay, the top one on Concept 2. It will go down a tiny bit, but as I'm coming forwards, I want to make sure that the chain is at round about that height. So it goes down a little bit, but then it returns as I come into the front again. So if you find it's slapping down to the bottom bolt, you're lowering your handle too much, okay, and that could cause that problem, the posture problems, and then the losing the backswing. So we can keep it at that nice height through the stroke. You can think, imagine there was like a piece of wood right in front of you, about that thick, okay? As you come in for the drive, you drive over the top of that piece of wood. Oh, crikey, what am I doing with my arms? Drive over the top of that piece of wood. And then as you return, you come slightly under that piece of wood, okay? And then drive again across the top, and then under. Drive across the top, and then under. Just if you want, because sometimes that little release of thinking under can help that just release, relaxing the handle away from you. Because the point is as you finish your stroke, everything should be relaxed. You shouldn't be really expending that much energy on the recovery. The whole point is it's called a recovery. So from here, you shouldn't be using that many muscles. It should all be about your body's momentum. So the momentum of the handle going away, the momentum of your forwards tilt, and the momentum of your knees bending should be what takes you forwards. You shouldn't be pulling and rigid and tense. If you look and you see your triceps bulging out of your arms, you're too tense, okay? So you wanna make sure come into the finish and then relax from this point forwards. So if thinking about just putting the handle under this kind of inch thick piece of wood is going to help you, or 2.5 centimeters if you prefer. If that's going to help you relax, then please do, okay? Because you want to be nice and relaxed. What you certainly don't want to be on the recovery is this, okay? People that are like, oh, the handle scares me, and they throw it out in front of them. Just, I don't like this. Just make sure and relax, okay? come forward. Nice neutral height. Keep the chain at that top bolt, and that will help you think about getting those arms nice and straight as you do your forwards tilt and coming into the front of the machine, okay? Right. There are going to be many things I haven't spoken about in this video, but take a look at the timer. I mean, I'm amazed if you've even made it this far through for the whole technique chat. So if there's something I have missed out of this video that you think I should just fundamentally be an idiot for not talking about, then please do. I know there's things that I could talk about. Techniques like strapless rowing is a good way to teach you how to row without your feet in the straps, obviously. But that's not what this is about. This is me just talking at quite some length about technique. So if there's anything that you think I should have brought up, then please let me know. I'm not saying I'm the best at technique. In fact, if you look at how I was finishing with my arms for a lot of that, it wasn't right. I was too high. I didn't have my wrists at the right angle. I talk a good game, and most of the time I row with an okay enough technique, okay? But I wanted to at least make a standalone technique video because out of all of my row along workout videos I have up here, I do tend to talk technique the whole time, but they're embedded within a row along workout, and if you haven't loaded up that row along workout, you maybe haven't heard me talk about technique before. So this may have seemed like a long version of me talking about technique, but trust me, I could go on and on. So anyway, let me know if you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions at all when it comes to technique or anything else, please get in touch, either in the comments on this video or you can email me at info@rowalong.com. In the meantime, row well, be well, bye-bye.